And I also keep off of my phone for the first hour and a half of the day. I have it on silent. Nobody can distract me from things. And so this allows me time for my self-care, my prayer and meditation, my journal writing, reading a chapter of a book, and also, being able to spend time with my daughter before she goes off to school in the morning and things like that, before I let in the outside world, before I let in all of the craziness.
Are you lacking in the self-care department? Or maybe you just want to step up your game. Well, then you need to get a hold of the weekly self-care planning guide, because this will help you to plan out and prioritize self-care, because self-care is not a luxury, it is a necessity. You can get yours by going to holisticmamaspeaks.com/self-care. That's holisticmamaspeaks.com/self-care. Oh, and did I mention the self-care planning guide is absolutely free? That's $0. So be sure to get yours at holisticmamaspeaks.com/self-care.
Hello and welcome back to Holistic Mama Speaks, the podcast, Season 2. I am your host, Carrie Marie Vaughn, and I'm just so excited to continue our journey together towards holistic living, wellness, and abundance. Wow. In Season 2, we are just going to be diving deeper into a variety of different topics related to natural health, mindful living, wealth and abundance, and even conscious parenting. I'm just so excited. And I will be featuring expert guests who will share their knowledge and experience with us. So many amazing people, some returning guests from Season 1 and some new guests. I will also be answering listener questions and addressing some common concerns related to holistic living. And you can actually submit your questions by going to holisticmamaspeaks.com/ask. ASK. My goal is to provide you with practical tips and inspiration that you can incorporate into your own life. Whether you are a seasoned holistic living enthusiast like some people, or if you are just starting out on this journey, there is just something for everyone along the way. So I'm just happy to have you here in the Season 2 of Holistic Mama Speaks. And just as a side note, by listening to this podcast, you agree not to use this as medical advice or to treat a medical condition. You can visit holisticmamaspeaks.com to find the full disclaimer. So sit back, relax, and let's explore a world of holistic living and abundance together. Are you a mom who's struggling to balance taking care of loved ones while also taking care of yourself? It's a very common challenge, but there is actually a simple solution: daily affirmations. In Mom Mantras, the daily affirmation guide for mothers of all kinds, you'll find powerful affirmations and mantras that will help you improve your health, happiness, and mindset. Whether you are a biological mom, an adoptive mom, a stepmom, a pet mom, a motherly figure, this book is for you. Read these mantras in the morning, before bed, really anytime throughout the day to uplift your spirits and to stay focused on what matters most. Visit mommantras.com to get your own copy and to start living a more intentional, purposeful life. Welcome back to Holistic Mama Speaks. I am your host, Carrie Marie Vaughn, and I am joined today by two lovely people. I have Dr. Joe and I have Ryan Brimmer, and I am going to let the two of them introduce themselves, but we are so happy to have you here today. So Dr. Joe, I will leave it up to you. You can go ahead and let us know who you are and how you help people.
Thanks so much, Carrie Marie. Always a pleasure to be on with you. I'm Dr. Joe. I'm a women's holistic coach and yoga, meditation, mindfulness teacher. I work with people individually and in groups, and I also do workshops, and I'm a speaker. So pleased to be here and hope everyone enjoys the show. Thanks.
And Ryan, I will turn it over to you.
My name is Ryan Brimmer. I'm actually a network marketing coach. I build multiple businesses in multiple different industries, and I have a full-time corporate job. But typically, I'm helping and coaching people on how to build side hustles outside of their corporate careers.
Awesome. And you two are perfect to have on today to talk about how to stay focused and avoid distractions, because we are all doing a lot of things ourselves and need to stay focused and avoid distractions. And we're also helping people to do those things. So this is such a great topic to talk about, because a lot of moms struggle with this. There are so many things going on in their lives, with kids here and there, with appointments, with probably soccer practice and who knows whatever else, plus a household and trying to have a social life and all of that. It's kind of hard. And, some people run their own business or work outside of the home. And so it's very, very important to try to be able to stay focused and avoid those distractions so that you can get everything accomplished that needs to be done without stressing over it. So I would love to know, just from both of you, kind of some things that work for you in your own life, and then we can talk about how we help others in this way as well.
Sure. I find what works. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, after you. That's all I was going to say.
Oh, thank you. I find what works for me. I have to schedule things, and I'm old fashioned. I have a paper planner because I like to highlight. I know you can do that but the phone is just too small for me. So I have a paper planner, and I have to schedule things like self-care and time with friends, because otherwise I find I don't have time for it, and it just kind of goes by the wayside. And I schedule things like clean, which I try to push off on the husband, but when I do that, I schedule that too, or laundry. So for me, scheduling things and figuring out what I need to do, and I'm a list maker as well. However, when I do lists, I also put down things that I've already done so I can cross that off. That's kind of a little trick, and I'm sure you've heard of that, but it actually does work, or it helps me anyways. The other thing is that giving myself a break and kind of thinking about what's really important. For example, with cleaning, I used to clean much more frequently than I do now, but I've had to ask myself, okay, how important is it that I vacuum again versus spending time with my friends, or, taking care of myself in a different way. And it's really helped me become less OCD about certain things. Just kind of sitting back and asking yourself, how important is this task? Or do I want to spend time with my kids? So that's an important thing. And kind of asking yourself, what are my values here? And, am I cleaning my house because I've got some message in my head about this is an important thing to do because society says this? Or is it really truly because that will be good for me or make me feel good? Or, just kind of asking yourself what your values are. And another thing that I do is I set an intention for the day. And usually it's sort of like, for me, it's usually to be present, because that is helpful in terms of not being distracted. And also, when I'm finished with the workday, I turn my phone off and I turn my computer off, and they're done. And then I just spend time with my husband and my family. Because if I am continuing to look at my phone and digital stuff, then I'm not turning my brain off. I'm not separating work from home. And I know that's probably really hard for people, but it has done wonders for me. And if I watch TV, I just do that for a little while, but otherwise media is off. So I encourage people to try that. And even if it's just for an experiment for a night, see how it's different for you. See what changes. So yeah, I'll turn it over to you, Ryan.
Yeah. Well, it's hard act to follow, Dr. Joe. Yeah, for me, what I do in my own life personally, and understand that myself, Carrie Marie Vaughn, Dr. Joe, we're all not immune to being distracted. I'm sure all of us do still get distracted, right? And I think the idea is to get a little bit better every day about how you're handling those distractions. One of the things that I do for myself and I recommend to others is have a vision, right, for where you want to go and what you want to do. And if a vision is too grand scheme type of thing for you, maybe as Dr. Joe alluded to, just setting an intention for the day and kind of trying to play that out in your head a little bit in the morning, so that you can kind of picture that day before it gets started, right? So that's one thing I like to do. And the other thing that really helps me personally is I typically stay off my phone and off of social media and email for the first couple hours of the day. The reason why I do that personally is because I'm very ADHD, and if I do that, I notice that if I get up and get on my phone right away, the rest of the day is all over the place, right? Because my brain is already in reactive mode instead of being proactive. So I like to give myself a couple hours in the morning and meditate and visualize what I want to do for the day, take some time to read, different things like that. But whatever you do, whatever your morning routine is, the point is to try to stay away from things that demand your attention, because you'll notice it start to bleed into other areas of your day. And that's a huge thing for me. The other thing on a tactical level or a physical level, I use an app called Motion. And if you haven't heard of Motion, it's like the greatest thing that I've ever come across. It's an awesome app, and it basically includes all of my calendars, and I can set up projects and different tasks, and it automatically schedules all my tasks for me. So then I just kind of log in and into Motion, and it has a list for me to do for that day based on the priority level I've already given it. So much like Dr. Joe said, I really plan out what I want to do. And I prioritize that, as she was alluding to as well, right? I prioritize my son's baseball games. Those go in my calendar first, right? I prioritize work. I prioritize all of that stuff. And then, that goes in the calendar first, and then all the other stuff goes in. And I notice that if I continually show up and be consistent, then things get done. And the last thing that I'll just say about this particular thing is try to pay attention to how you're feeling, right? So if you're watching your son play baseball or engaging with the kids, and you're noticing thoughts like, I should be doing this, or I should be doing that, that's a good time to pause and reflect, and maybe journal it so you can look at it later, so that you can start to work through those thoughts, because it's likely something that stems from maybe an underlying challenge that you're facing, right? Maybe it is overwhelm or something like that you can work with nice coaches like Carrie Marie Vaughn or Dr. Joe about. But pay attention to those things, because one of my favorite quotes, as we were talking about earlier, is sunlight is the best disinfectant, right? And until we bring those thoughts out and put them on paper, we're never really gonna be able to tackle and handle them. So I know that was a long-winded answer, but hopefully that helps.
No, I think
that was great, Ryan. Yeah. Oh, I just wanted to say one little thing. Thanks, Ryan. The thing about should is it's a judgment word. So I always tell my clients, when you think, I should be doing this better, I should do this instead of this, replace it with can or might. So in other words, it's like, well, I can be doing this, or I might do this, because then it's a choice. When it's I should be, then it's a judgment. So if you can try to catch your shoulds and then replace it, it makes the difference.
Yeah. And awareness is huge. Just being aware of when you're finding yourself getting distracted, or when you can't focus on a task. And like Ryan, you were saying to journal it when you have these thoughts that come up. But I am very much the same way, kind of a combination of the two of you, where, I have to have, things planned out in a calendar, and that includes my self-care. That includes my time with my family and my friends, as well as my appointments, my work schedule, all of that, because first of all, it helps keep me organized, and it just makes sure that I get things done. And those are my priorities. I also have a daily checklist of probably about only 5 or 6 items that are just my to-dos that day. I have to do these things. They're not necessarily things that are in my calendar, but it's just like things that I want to get done around the house, or making sure that I don't forget about one little thing, like the cat's litter boxes. I have to remind myself about those things, but those go in my daily checklist. And so, and I also keep off of my phone for the first hour and a half of the day. I have it on silent. Nobody can distract me from things. The only time I pull it up is to pull up like a guided meditation or something like that, but I am not checking any messages. I am not going on any kind of social media for the first hour and a half of the day. And so this allows me time for my self-care, my prayer and meditation, and my journal writing, reading a book reading a chapter of a book, and also, being able to spend time with my daughter before she goes off to school in the morning and things like that, before I let in the outside world, before I let in all of the craziness. And then of course, then you can check your messages, but even if you schedule in time to check the messages, sometimes that's helpful. Or even setting a timer. I have found that myself, some social media can get you really sucked in, and then you find yourself wasting time. Or or maybe you're in the middle of something, and you just keep getting all these dings from all this stuff. Feel free to turn off notifications, and also that timer when you're on things, because then that way when the timer goes off, like, oh, I just spent 10 minutes on that. My timer just went off that I've spent a whole 10 minutes on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, okay, I'm done with it for now. And so doing things like that have been super helpful to me, but also kind of almost setting boundaries with people that I know as well, that, okay, during these times, this is when I'm going to be working on this. But then after that is when I'm going to be focused on this, and I can give you my attention because, and especially I do this podcast, I have coaching calls, I have other things, and I work from home all of the time. So everybody in my world has to be aware, okay, during these times, I'm going to have my notifications off and I can't be bothered during these times. But then after that is my time to spend with them. And I am able to focus more on time with my friends and my family when I know I have already done the things I needed to do and carved out that time so that I can be a little bit more focused.
So I'd like to add something here. So oftentimes before I've had all my training and my experience and all this stuff, my go-to excuse was, you don't understand my life, right? You say all this stuff, right? You say this stuff, and yeah, it's wonderful that you get 2 hours before, anything happens, but that's not me. That's not my life, right? Yeah. And I want to say to anybody that might be saying that in their head right now, I know I've been there, right? I've worked at home now for the better part of 15 years. My wife's been a stay-at-home wife for probably the better part of 10 years. So juggling those responsibilities and those things, my kids are in high school now, one's getting ready to graduate, but it wasn't always that way, right? I did have to take kids everywhere and drive them everywhere and drop them off at baseball tournaments and games and all that stuff. So the first thing I would tell you is just, it doesn't have to be in the morning. Right. I learned a long time ago that, morning time is really the best time for me, but that looks different for everybody. Maybe the evening time is better for you, or maybe you're a homeschool mom that, that puts the kids down for naps, or they're out doing activities. There's different things that you can do to take time for yourself. So you just kind of have to look at your day and find out what is the best time for you, right? Based on those activities. Maybe it is at night. Nighttime is awful for me because I just really want to hit the pillow and go to sleep. So, but that's me, right? So you just have to look at your time and your schedule and look at, human beings are very they're very habitual, right? So I bet if you look at your life, your husband's life, your kids' lives, they're all very habitual, and you can start to work in your, whatever you're trying to do on the side, time for yourself, you can start to work that stuff in. If you just pay attention really to what your schedule looks like. So I just wanted to throw that in.
That's a good point. And I think too, you can add little moments throughout the day. Like one of my yoga teachers says, take 3 for you, I'll take 3 for me. So take 3 for me means just take 3 breaths, take 3 deep breaths. And then she always shakes it out.
Yeah, I love
to get all the wiggles out. Yeah. So just pause and take 3 deep breaths and then shake it out. Yeah. And it just kind of resets. Yeah. Or just move your body in any way. Do some dance. That's what I like to do. Just kind of dance. Because I think moving your body in a way that's really fun for you is easier than like doing exercise for exercise. It seems like a easier way to kind of motivate and have fun with it. So move your body in any way that feels good. Or walk around the block, do anything to kind of change things up a little bit and get some energy going. Mm-hmm.
I love that you said that, because I follow Dr. Nicole LaPera, the holistic psychologist. Mm-hmm. She's huge. Love her content. And as a matter of fact, this is the way I teach everybody that I work with, whether it's in my businesses or in my coaching practice or whatever I do, I always tell them, because everybody wants to go from 0 to 150 right away. And it's not like that. I love that Dr. Joe said, just take 3, right?
Yep.
The holistic psychologist says whatever you do, maybe it's just a walk around the block, right? To implement a habit, I never recommend that people start going from 0 to 150 right away, because our brain is literally wired to protect you. So that's not, your brain is not going to allow you to sustain that habit long term when you do that. So just taking a simple walk around the block, or, whenever I'm starting, if I fall off my exercise routine, because I do sometimes, right? I just walk to the mailbox and back for the next 7 to 10 days, right? And it's very quick. It's probably 5 to 8 minutes to walk to the mailbox and back. But it's something that I can do that's a win for me. And I can pat myself on the back and celebrate that at the end of the 10 days. And then I can add something else, right? But I never go back to, my hour to hour and a half workout routine right away if I've taken 2 weeks to a month off, because my body has already acclimated to a different routine, different process, and my brain is not going to allow me to sustain that long term. So anyway, I just love that you said that, Dr. Joe.
Yeah.
And that's
great.
Yep. Great point. And I think too, Ryan, the important thing of not judging yourself when you do fall off a routine, because we're human and it's going to happen. So radical acceptance of where you're at, because wherever you're at is where you're supposed to be. So let it be, and just every day you get to start over.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I do find that if it seems like there's so much going on and it's overwhelming, if you do take those few minutes for deep breathing, it resets everything. It can really help you to stay focused on, whatever it is you're trying to get done. If it seems like it's, stressful or overwhelming or whatever, the deep breathing is so helpful. But I also love that you're mentioning, dancing and walking around the block and everything like that, because I love moving my body. Dancing is my go-to thing as well, but also being outside in nature. So, anytime I can just step outside for a little bit, and thank goodness we're having some nice weather.
Yes.
Get outside even for a little bit, even if it's not really walking around too much, but even if it's sitting outside for a little bit, maybe I'm doing the same things that I knew I needed to do, but it's outside rather than inside, just changing up the location. That can also help you stay focused, because you're just kind of changing it up a little bit. It's not the same old routine. I also wanted to mention too, that I like how Dr. Joe, you had mentioned, setting intentions, because that's something that I've always done first thing in the morning. I love setting intentions for the day, but not even just first thing in the morning. It can also be before I do something, before I walk through a door, I can set an intention. Okay, when I walk through, this is the kind of person who I want to be when I'm in this room with these people.
I love that.
Whether it's a meeting, whether it's a meet and greet, whether it's, church or anything like that, I can set an intention before I walk through that door. And, and anytime I, maybe read a new book or attend a training or anything that's kind of the next big thing, I love setting intentions before I go through that. I want to be a good learner. I want to be open-minded. I want to fully, understand this as best I can in this moment of my life, kind of thing. And setting those intentions and just saying affirmations and everything. I mean, hey, I wrote a book about affirmations.
They're great. It's a really good way to be mindful and change your mindset. I love it.
Yep. It just can shift things around.
Yeah, and I want to caveat off that too. One of the things that I noticed that a lot of people miss when setting intentions, or they have affirmations, or they have visions, is they don't match it with a feeling, right? And it's a think, act, feel situation, or think, feel, act situation, right? And a lot of people, especially guys that I work with, I can't speak for a lot of women. Typically, I see. They say, I want to walk through the door, but they don't say, well, how's it going to feel when I walk through the door, right? How's it going to feel at the end of the day when I lay my head down on my pillow and I get everything on my task list done, or everything that I set out to do, or whatever my intention? How is that going to feel in my body, right? Am I going to be proud of myself? Am I going to feel joy or love or passion, right? Am I going to feel tired, right? A lot of times we don't match it with a feeling, and whether it be God or the universe or the quantum field or whatever it is that you hold belief in, it responds to the vibration that we're pushing out, right? And so I come across a lot of people when I'm coaching them and say, well, Ryan, I'm setting my intention. I'm trying to manifest, but I can't manifest anything. Well, yeah, because you're manifesting things and then you're going right back to your stressful, life, and you're not pushing out a vibration that's going to respond, the universe is going to respond to in a positive way, right? And so I just wanted to say that, like with Dr. Joe, like if you're dancing but you're all frustrated when you're dancing, well, you're not there's nothing that's being reciprocated from the universe there, right? If you're setting your intentions and you're thinking about what's it going to feel like or what do I want to do when I walk through the door, if you're not setting an intention on how you feel as well when you walk through that door, the reciprocation from the universe is not going to be there. And I know we're getting really deep in some different other stuff, but I really want to get the point across is think, feel, and then act, but don't miss the feel part, right? Don't miss the feel part.
That's really important. And I think it's about being embodied, right? Like when I started doing yoga, the way that it really clicked in for me is when I was in my body and I realized, oh, this is what it feels like to be present and be not living from here up, like I think a lot of us do. And so one thing that you can do to just practice being embodied is do a body scan, during the day. And just because sometimes when I ask people how they feel, that I don't know, I don't feel anything. Okay, tell me what it feels like in your throat right now. What are you noticing in your chest? What does your belly feel like? And if you start doing that, and at first you might be like, I don't know, I don't notice anything. But if you really start tuning in, then you'll notice maybe there's some tightness in certain muscles. Maybe your hands are kind of clammy. Maybe there's a catch in your throat. All of these things mean something. They're emotions. Your body keeps the score, as Bessel van der Kolk says, or his book. I highly recommend it. So if you listen to your body, then you get clues about your feelings, and that tells you everything. So doing body scan is a good way to get in touch with your body, your spirit, as Ryan is saying, and connect the intentions with the universe or the consciousness, whatever you believe in, and to get to know your own self and your feelings and your intuition.
And I will say that the more distracted you are, the less you will feel and be present with your body. So in the better part of my 20s, I thought I could just take on everything. And people asked me how I felt about it, and I was like, I don't feel anything. I just want to work all the time. And it wasn't until I started taking stuff off my plate and really noticing, as Dr. Joe was saying, like really noticing what my body was telling me, and how I was feeling, that so the converse can happen when you put so much distractions on your plate. You're gonna separate yourself, and you're not going to be able to feel.
Yep, you are living from here up.
Yeah,
which 100%. Is what I had been doing too. Yeah.
And I love that you say that, Ryan, about putting too much on your plate, because that a lot of moms are known for doing that, just taking on everything. And so to learn to say no,
yes,
it's a hard one, but you got to do it. You have to say no to things sometimes. You don't have to say yes to every time you're asked to volunteer at your school or the kids' clubs and sports and everything. You don't have to say yes. It's great to be involved, and it's okay to say yes occasionally when it's okay and when it feels good, but not all the time, because saying yes to everything will just make you get distracted and stressed and overwhelmed, and you're spreading yourself too thin. And also make sure that you have people that you can give things to. If your kids are old enough to help out with chores around the house, have them do that, and it will help to kind of lessen the amount of burden on you, so that there are less things to get distracted with.
Yeah. And I think that learning that it's okay to disappoint people, and that is inevitable, is so important, especially for moms, because that's one of the reasons that it's hard to say no, because I want everyone to like me. I don't want to disappoint anyone. Well, not everyone's going to like you, and you are going to disappoint people. That is part of life, and that's okay. And also, somebody said that saying no is recommitting to the yeses that you've already said. I like that. So it's kind of a reinforcement, like, okay, by saying no, then I am recommitting to all these other priorities and people that I've said yes to. So that can help too.
So I will say that my one of my childhood programming was that I was the people pleaser in my house,
Yeah.
right? And so I grew up into my relationships, my businesses, all of that stuff, being the yes man, and because I didn't want to disappoint anybody, and I felt shame or guilt when I did say no. And so my innate response, because I want to be protective over all those mamas out there that want to say yes to everything, is to not feel shame or guilt.
Yes.
My secondary response would be notice when you're feeling the shame or guilt, because it's going to tell you that there's something underneath that you need to work through. That maybe was like me, I was the people pleaser, and the nice guy. I created this nice guy persona, and because I created that persona, I've spent the last probably 3 or 4 years trying to unlearn all of that programming from childhood. And so, but I couldn't have done that until I started being aware of, okay, when I say no to somebody, I feel bad. I feel really shameful for that. Like I feel guilty, like I could be helping them out. In reality, I could not have helped them out because I had way too much stuff going on. But anyway, my point is try to pay attention to how you're feeling when you do say no, because it can lead to, or not lead to, but it can help you discover some of the underlying programming that you might need to unprogram and reprogram how you like. So
Yeah.
That's an excellent point. And remembering that saying no is self-care.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, do either of you have any closing words or any specific last minute tips that you'd like to share on staying focused and avoiding distractions before we close out today?
I will just say that putting yourself first, I think that for moms, that's a very difficult thing. And remembering to prioritize your time and your self-care as well. And then just in terms of the breathing being very important and a very good centering and grounding thing, and also going in nature. And one thing that I like to do is just walk on the earth with bare feet, because that's a really good way to center and ground. So that's now that I'm in Minnesota, so it's much of the year you can't do that. So now that's becoming time to do that is a good way. And then one note about breathing, anytime you extend the exhale longer than the inhale, it will calm your nervous system and automatically slow down your heart rate and your blood pressure. So that's a good way to just practice centering and grounding. And also I have to recommend yoga, because not just because I'm a yoga teacher, but because there is proof that it is helpful for people with trauma, with all kinds of different things. And it's a really good way to connect breath with movement and to become embodied. So
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Carrie Marie.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Just to reiterate, thank you for inviting me on here, and I hope that I gave your listeners something to think about. I think the last thing that I would say would be to pay attention to how you feel. I know that's very unheard of coming from a man, especially a man that grew up in the country and that had 20 years in the military. Typically, I was taught not to feel anything ever because it could get you killed, right? But I promise you, coming from that background to the background that I'm in now, you can feel, and your body can tell you a lot of things about a lot of things, right? We have coaches, right? I'm a coach. I'm not discrediting coaches, but the best coach you can have is your body. Pay attention to how you're feeling, and keep a little journal, right? About, hey, at 12 o'clock today, I was doing this, and I started to feel this weird feeling in my chest, and I started to get hot, right? And then go back, and when you do have some moments to yourself, review those and start small and work through those. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I just want to make sure to reiterate too, to give yourself grace. Don't stress over what was or what was not done in the past. And it helps you to stay a little bit more in the present today, to focus on the task at hand today. And also don't stress over what's to come in the future. Because I feel like so many people are living in the past or the future, and they're not paying attention to the moment, to today. And so if you can focus on the day at hand, so that when you get up, you're really just thinking about today. What would you like to accomplish today? What are your appointments today? What are the things that need to happen today? And who do you want to be today? Those are all of the things that you should keep top of mind, rather than stressing over, whatever was in the past has already happened. It's okay if it wasn't what you had expected. Give yourself grace and move on and pay attention to today. And also tomorrow has yet to come. So,
Yeah.
so focusing on the day is extremely important. And as both Dr. Joe and Ryan mentioned, to take time for yourself and to journal, pay attention. All of those things are so important, and the deep breathing, just to kind of get refocused again throughout the day. Well, thank you both so much for joining me. I hope that this was helpful for everybody. This is so many good nuggets, and I hope that people can take these and start implementing them into their lives. It will be so helpful.
Yeah. Thank you, Carrie Marie. Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Joe. Thank you, Carrie Marie.
Thank you both so much. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Bye-bye now.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening. It has been a pleasure being with you today. I hope that you enjoyed this and got some value out of it. If you did, be sure to rate and review on wherever you're listening or watching. And also be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.